What's up, gang, and welcome back to the Quarter Mile Podcast.
Welcome back to episode 3.
Episode 3. Right? We did a major callback in so many ways. We're here at the Rusty's TV, movie, and car museum here in Jackson, Tennessee. This is where we filmed our 3rd episode. And it's also, honestly, in my mind, kind of where it felt like we found our voice as a podcast. So it kind of made sense to do our season finale here. Of course, we always have Bailey, who's right here in our on our podcast, but we brought back a special guest who we had, just like Han was in Tokyo Drift, and just like Han returned for the 9th episode, and then came back for the 10th episode of Fast and Furious. We brought Alan Ingalls back for our 10th.
I don't even know if there's like an applause thing anymore on here.
I don't know, yeah.
No, it doesn't even work.
It's turned down.
Oh. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, yeah!
Alan, welcome back to our episodes.
I am not as cool as Han, so sorry to disappoint.
Debatably cooler.
Oh, okay.
Listen, we can talk about it, but I liked Han from 3 through 7, and then when they brought him back, I was like, we don't need to. And then in 10, and then in 10, I was like, I don't. But see, I feel differently. Like when we brought you back in episode 9, I was like, good. And then in 10, I was like, better. So
nice.
Nice save, Drew.
Yes, that was a good save. I'm rocking the saves today. Let's just get right into it. Like Fast X, Fast and Furious.
Jump
10.
right into it.
This movie had bigger than usual cast. It already had an all-star cast. I don't feel like we need to go through
and explosions.
Oh my gosh, it's so many explosions. It was basically Rocket League with cars. Did you?
It was the end of our intro song. All the movie was literally Rocket.
He said it's Rocket League with cars. Rocket League is cars.
So it's basically. I missaid you're right. What I meant to say is basically Fast and Furious Rocket League.
I had mentioned it was like Marvel with cars.
Yep.
But that's cool too.
Yeah. So this movie,
Age
in
of
addition to
Ultron.
Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, Nathalie Ramsey, let's see, who else do we got? Jordana Brewster, John Cena, Deckard Shaw, Jason Statham. In addition to all the main characters that have been in the first 9 episodes and movies, we also added some big names. We had Alan Richardson from Reacher. We had Brie Larson from so much. Mostly like
Marvel.
Captain Marvel, but also like Community. We forget she was in Community.
Oh, I did forget that.
Who was it?
She was like Abed's love interest.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was like maybe her first role. And then we also had who's the last one? Jason Momoa as Dante.
Yeah.
And
Dante.
I feel like he carried the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about that.
I've got some major thoughts about that.
He's the one you forget. He's so forgettable, but he's still. This is not going to end well.
We're starting off strong in this podcast. We've talked about every other movie other than Fast and Furious. I forgot one of the main lead actors and debatably the best one in the movie. This movie came out in 2023. I remember this kind of a sad story, but
so like
I just moved. Yeah, it was just last year. I'd moved back to Nashville, and I'd been living there for about a year, maybe a little bit less, and I just didn't have any friends yet. Like all my regular friends that I used to hang out with and watch, they all had the audacity to get married and have kids and have lives, and they didn't want to spend a whole weekend watching Fast and Furious with me.
Right.
So I soloed it, man. I just got all the
and
movies.
It's all about family. You should just brought them all with you.
Exactly.
I think what better holiday? Right? So you just wait till we make this a national holiday, gang. Where it's Furious Weekend. It's gonna replace. I was gonna say it's gonna replace Easter. That doesn't seem right.
Oh Lord, he risen.
Right. Vin Diesel would be cool with that. I feel like I could get.
He already acts like he is Jesus, so he tries to act like he thinks he's Jesus.
I feel like I could get him on board.
Sure, you could.
I've thought so many times whether he would like this podcast or absolutely hate it because of all the jabs we make about him. Out of love, but
I don't know.
I don't think he would support this podcast.
Nah, I think he's.
I don't. Yeah.
We love you, Vin Diesel.
Yeah, he's one of those. He seems like one of those kind of guys that can take a rib, take a joke.
Yeah,
I feel like you have to.
I mean, I was already talking about how much I loved him for half of the podcast, and then immediately rerouted my brain. So here we are.
Well, once Jason Statham entered the
That's true. It was a different bald guy.
From bald man to bald man.
Yeah.
But never on The Rock. The Rock was not.
No, The Rock is just not. That was rock bottom. That was my childhood.
Rock bottom. Love that.
I had already gone through The Rock.
Oh,
that was when I was like
he was
5.
beforehand, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel has to be a good sport because there's no telling how many memes and stuff.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That he's had to have seen them all, right?
Yeah.
Just have to be a good sport about it.
Like, we know he's like a dungeon master. We know he's into D&D and really geek nerd
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So
He's a cool dude.
every
That's
guy
great.
I've seen who's like a dungeon master would have fun with it. Anyway.
They're self-aware.
Fun Vin Diesel fact, and this is like my most interesting fact for me that I've learned in this movie, for this movie rewatch. His real name is Mark Sinclair.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I did
His
not
name's not
know
Vin
that.
Diesel?
No, it's Mark
That makes
Sinclair.
sense because Diesel's like a gas joke, so.
Yeah.
But
I mean, VIN
he was
number
Vin
and
Diesel
Diesel,
long before Fast
is that
and
like
Furious.
a reason?
That was his actor name. Real name's Mark Sinclair.
I don't know. I really think
Wow.
it was a reason why he called himself Vin Diesel, though. Like, both of those are car references.
Maybe it's like action hero type. I don't know.
Yeah, but the Fast and the Furious, I guess. Well,
Maybe this was his
was
plan.
It his, like,
Maybe
second or
Fast and
third
Furious
role?
was his entire ego, and he
Yeah.
said, "This is my universe. My name is Vin Diesel, VIN number Diesel, and I'm a superhero of my own Fast and
Maybe
Furious."
that's how he got cast because they were looking through the list and they're like, "Wait a minute, oh, we gotta
His
get
name
this
is
We gotta
guy."
get this
Yeah.
guy. He's like on brand.
I've often thought that when they made the first, I almost said the first Vin Diesel movie, the first Fast and Furious movie.
Same difference.
The directors met
Pacifier.
Mark Sinclair or Vin Diesel and were like, let's make a movie about the guy this guy thinks he is. And then the rest is history.
That would be fun.
So I went and saw this movie in the same theater that I saw like the first few in. And so that was kind of a
that's
cool call.
cool.
But except it's like way nicer now than it was.
right.
Like gentrification in Nashville. So it was like way nice. Like I was like, this feels different. I was looking at these teenagers watching this movie like, you're not having the same experience that I did when I was your age. But anyways.
Can you imagine the first movie also had a really raw, like when you look at it now, it was really raw, really, guerrilla style. It was,
Felt like I was looking at somebody's
It was
vlog.
in early, exactly. It was early 2000s, so they didn't have cameras like they do now, but also that movie didn't warrant the best cameras at the time. They're like, let's just use those ones over in the corner there,
Sepia.
And then right. And then the theater was kind of run down, and now you're at Fast X, and you're like the theater's nicer and the graphics are better.
Yeah.
Like,
It was
that's
crazy.
interesting.
Yeah.
It was
lot
a
more CGI.
gorgeous movie. Yeah.
It was pretty.
It wasn't as pretty to me as Tokyo Drift. Tokyo Drift had a lot of colors and the cars were more characters than this one.
I feel like it
Contrast.
looks more,
But from a
authentic.
production,
Yeah.
yeah, but because I make movies, well, I make short movies, but and music videos and stuff, and from a production value, I remember watching this and going, wow, they gave Fast and Furious 10 the same budget as Iron Man. Like,
Yeah.
there's a
Oh
lot
my
going on,
gosh.
and it looks good, and all right,
Yeah.
Back to the Marvel. I'm saying, guys, I don't know.
The crossover is happening.
It's
too. The
right
FU,
there.
The FU is happening.
It's right. It sure is a few.
FMC.
and they're going to be the first franchise to bring. You want to talk about family? They're going to bring the MCU and Jurassic Park, Jurassic World
would
into the
love
Fast
that.
World,
I would
and just do
love
it.
it.
It would be the biggest movie of the summer.
I can't.
Bailey, would you go see that? Quarter mile
You would have to be curious.
That would just be so. It
It would be a roller coaster and a train wreck, and
It'd
it
be
would
so
be
confusing.
2 hours of
I
popcorn.
would definitely.
Raisinette
I would be there. I would be there.
Yeah,
It would have to be
you'd
like
have
a
to.
live shooting, but I don't know if that's even possible because that would probably go against all movie theater policies. But gosh,
Come watch.
Come watch us film it.
Come watch us have our reactions only, where we don't.
Give it some time.
We don't show you the screen.
The way reaction videos are, like on TikTok, like give it some time. It'll pick up. So, do you guys have any fun 2023 stories of what you were doing last year?
Last year, I mean, I don't remember actually. Do you remember the month that it came out
It was
exactly?
April, right?
April, yeah.
April
or
last
Easter.
year?
Yeah. Although I saw it a little bit later. I had a crazy schedule, so I had to wait a little bit to see it.
I think it was. I don't really remember what I was doing, actually. I can't remember if I was in the new place or not. But I was trying to get to a new place, regardless, or I was in a new place. So
So, in some part
it was
of the moving
getting
process.
better, if not already, but I don't remember. It's happened so quickly.
Yeah. So, It's weird that when we first started this podcast, it's like, what were you doing in 2001? And now we're like, what were you doing last year?
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't even
You're
know.
like, I was being born.
Was there a life before this podcast? I don't remember.
I don't even remember. Who was I before?
Yeah.
I was
remember
nobody.
what I was doing last March.
I was
It
Mr.
right
Nobody
here.
before this podcast.
That's right. Love it.
Y'all shouldn't laugh
I think
at that.
honestly I was just the same, but I've just brought more people into my hysteria of Fast and Furious.
Yes, you
I've
did.
expanded my universe.
Yes, you did.
I think I was basically this, but by myself.
You're the ringmaster.
It's Vin Diesel.
Alan, were you
gets attracted to him.
doing anything special last year?
I was just making music videos, making short films.
I love how he says that. Like, oh yeah.
Well, to me, it's normal. Other people are like, "Oh, that's super cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, you don't know how much I sweat on those. It's not a fun time. It's a lot of hard work. The end result is cool."
Yeah.
But people always think it's way more glamorous than it is.
Let's get into it, gang. We decided before the show, we decided to because we were kind of just over AI plot summaries, and we're like, it's our podcast. We can do whatever we want. We don't need to do another podcast AI plot summary.
Yeah.
But we came up with something that I think's better. Bailey offered to do a Bailey's dialogue of the plot because she kind of had a running thought list, her live reaction as she was watching. And so she's going to take us through the movie, and then me and Alan have been invited to fill in any blanks as we see fit. So that being said, take us to our newest section of our podcast, Bailey's dialogue.
All right, so you start off. It's got this entire movie. First of all, just think about this. They put in EDM music in here instead of like what was going on with either like maracha music or it was like rap music.
Or both.
Or both. Or nothing in between. But now it's EDM music, so I think they're really just trying to get to us young folk, as people say, I guess. So anyways, just imagine just a lot of bass going on, and then you have this black screen pop up, and then you start to see what is his name? Reyes. You see Reyes, and the scene opens up, and pretty much you're noticing that, oh my God, they're back. And Reyes has a son, apparently, that was, this is a flashback, by the way. You're confused as a viewer in the very beginning that it's a flashback because you see Paul Walker, and you're like, oh my God, that's Paul Walker. So here it is, Bailey's dialogue after seeing Reyes' son and Paul Walker at 4:25 of the movie starting. I say, Paul Walker, exclamation and question mark. There's more vaults and stealing, and then feels like I'm in an old movie with Jason Momoa. I'm not sure what I'm watching. Flashback, apparently this is a title scene. And now there's Vin Diesel's XXX movie on the screen, except it's just 1X instead of XXX, and this is Fast and Furious. But somehow I feel like I'm watching XXX with 1X. And then, oh God, he has a kid. That's right. And he's grown. How many years have passed? Apparently it's 2023. When was the last movie?
2021.
Okay, that makes sense. But why is this kid that big? All right. Anyways.
I don't think it's the same actor.
Exactly. But really thinking about this time frame, that kid shouldn't be that big. Also, they mentioned about how this kid has been drifting in a conversation with him and his dad. And they're like working on the cars or whatever like that. And they talk about how he had been teaching him drifting. And I said, oh, young kids drifting. That's crap. So then it goes over. And there's Vin Diesel's mom, apparently. I have to figure out that it's Vin Diesel's mom, though. So I figure out that it's Vin Diesel's mom with literally blonde hair and a lot of chains, because that is Vin Diesel. It's a woman with hair and chains. So it's Vin Diesel as a woman. So obviously that was his mom. And then somehow we see her maybe one more time in the movie again.
I don't even know.
I can't even remember.
No,
I had to remind myself that it wasn't Queenie.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I was like, this is not. Wait, no.
What is it? He's so comfortable with old women. He's so comfortable with old women.
I thought, wow, they recast Queenie with a Hispanic woman.
Who is this? Yeah. So then they go cheers, and they're at the little barbecue instead of the end of a movie where it shows their barbecue. It's the beginning of the movie, but it's because it's from the recap of the flashback that they just showed you. So then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Then you go to that.
Can I interject?
Interjection.
The cookout with grandma or mom was part of the beginning of the movie. Okay. It wasn't part of the flashback.
Maybe I was... No, the cookout wasn't the flashback, but I was saying it was after the flashback.
Yeah. Because to me, that was... I didn't notice it, but I noticed it this time because I knew how the movie ended. That was like foreshadowing of like something's happening at the end of the movie that doesn't involve a cookout.
Exactly.
So it was like started off...
They put it at the beginning.
It's like they were putting a cap on what they just showed you so that they could be like, all right, starting
They're like,
new chapter.
How you like being happy and enjoying things? Well, it's about to change.
It's different.
Anyway, sorry. I thought that was a cool part of the... Like, when it started, I was like, oh, it's starting with how they usually end.
That's fine. I need to make sure that I'm on the right track anyways, because I don't know every scene by scene in order.
On the road, on the right track, the racetrack for Fast and Furious.
Yeah, literally. So then, of course, they get out of the barbecue, and then Vin Diesel walks to, I guess, the shed or his shop.
He looks so bummed out at his family barbecue.
I can't. So here's where also I'm confused as a viewer. Is it his dad's shed or is it his that he made into his shed that was dad's shed?
I think it was his shed because they were at his house and he had like a nice little like memorial or shrine.
See, this is where that comes in.
I think that's where him and his dad built that Charger, right?
Right. Yeah. Where he keeps rebuilding the Charger.
This is like his old house. Yeah. Are we still at the old house that's been blown up multiple times?
So they're still at the old house that got blown up. And then he's walking in his shrine shed in his trophy room of his dad's and him area that he made of mainly himself. So, and then it cuts to Cypher. And that's where I say, ugh, Cypher. So I know it cuts to the Cypher scene. So then it shows that Cypher has a better haircut. So thank God Cypher's hair looks a lot better than what Cypher's hair typically looks like. So I was really happy about that part. But they're in like this secret base that looks like the Avengers, literally looks like the Avengers. It shows this A floating in this big old room with TVs. And I don't even know what they're called. Does anybody know what they're called starting with an A?
Wait, the TVs?
The TVs.
They're called...
They had a literally symbol on the TVs, on the displays, whenever it was like those big old rooms that big honky guy, that scary guy or whatever, was supposed to be. Yeah, and it was a floating A. It was a floating A on the screen.
Yeah,
anyways, this is just my theory is he's trying to make Fast and Furious look like Marvel/Star Wars.
Oh, that makes sense.
Anywho, so flipping to that, you have whatever her name is again, and I don't guess Letty is in here yet.
Not yet. Well, no, she was at the barbecue.
Yeah. She was at the barbecue. So
are you getting to the part where Jason jumps in?
Yeah, Jason's jumping in. I think this is where I get confused. Oh, right. She says that Jason Momoa is the devil, or somebody says Jason Momoa is the devil, pretty much. So I wrote Jason Momoa is the devil, aka
literally named Dante.
Call. Yes, but here's the thing. I know he's Dante, but he's just as much as like Vin Diesel is Vin Diesel in this movie, as much as Jason Momoa is Jason Momoa in this movie. He is playing himself.
Yeah.
I don't care what name he has right now. He is playing himself.
For the purposes of this movie, he's Jason Momoa.
He is definitely just Jason Momoa. So he's playing this split type-esque character in this movie, where he has very interesting personalities. So just put that into perspective. After it goes to Jason Momoa, I'm not quite sure where else it cuts to. I'm pretty sure it's where Cypher goes to the house.
Yes, but it does the flashback.
But it does a flashback. You go ahead with that one, because I don't even remember that one.
I really enjoyed this flashback.
There's so much that
because it had maybe the best joke of the whole movie, in my opinion. But so what's interesting is he pulls a Cypher on Cypher. So if you remember in Fast 8, Cypher controlled Vin Diesel by capturing a family member, his son, and then he had to do the whole plot of the Fate of Furious. So Jason Momoa just walks into this room, all the guns are turned to him, and then everyone's phone buzzes. And he's like, "Oh, you guys might want to check that." So they do, which is really weird. I can't imagine having a bunch of gun, like you have your gun on someone, and then you get a text, and like, hold on a second. But they all did. Maybe it's because it all happened at the same time. And then they look at the phone, and it's for each security guard, it's someone they care about, and so then they turn all their guns to Cypher. Except for one guy, and so Jason Momoa just kills that guy, and he's like, he didn't even have a cat he loved. He had nobody, and it was just such an in passing comment. It was so sad and hilarious to me. So that's how then Cypher narrowly escapes, and she
Cypher does the ciphering and then escapes the same way.
Because apparently she learned ninja moves in between the two movies.
Right, that's right. Yeah, and I really don't understand how she escapes in a lot of ways in this movie. I really don't.
She puts on plot armor.
Yeah,
she sure does put on plot armor.
She throws on the vest of I'm a main character and I can't die.
Exactly. I'm just gonna get through this because I have to. Because this is how the story is meant to be.
Maybe in addition to Marvel and Jurassic Park, they're throwing some Harry Potter in there too.
Yeah, she's a
she
wizard.
Has the cloak of invisibility as a wizard.
Yeah.
I mean, like we see how she does it in
Multiple
that scene,
killers.
but it's like so many things have to happen for that to work out.
Yeah.
But again, we've said this before. At this point, I'm 9 movies in.
I mean, they're not going to explain it in thorough detail or anything.
I'm like, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
She did have a really cool car, though, that she drove up to Vin Diesel's house. And it was like, where's that been? Was it a DeLorean, like Fast and the Future?
That was so interesting looking. I was trying to read what it said, but I could never figure out what it said on the car.
I think it's one of those things, though, where, like, all of these spies now, because they're all spies.
Yeah, spy movie.
Have these disposable cars hidden all over the place. like that, it started with the Civic, hidden under the bridge.
Yeah.
And now it's like they have $500,000 cars just, like, where they can run.
They have, like, a car guy. They just call it, we need.
Right, hey, I need a guy. Yeah.
We need
Exactly.
They have their own personal Uber guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
From nowhere.
From nobody. Because speaking of... Cypher shows up to their house now after that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, she's stumbling on this later. She's like, I met the devil himself. Or she's like, I'm just as surprised as you are. Opening the door to Dom. How did she not know that? I'm assuming she knew this was Dom's house. Like,
yeah, she had his address.
Definitely had his
Pulled him up
address.
on
Okay,
Google
so
Maps.
the fact that she said that she was just that's bullcrap. So, also, once she gets in there, she's on the couch. And then Letty's like, we have an unwanted guest, so let's leave. And then
they're surprisingly chill with her.
Pretty crazy.
How did they not shoot her right away?
Right.
I'm not quite sure why they even let her live, actually.
Well, I think it's because she said she had
tea.
she had something to tell him. That
She said, let me spill the tea.
She had some sort of leverage. Yeah. Somehow Mr. Nobody enters the scene at some point.
Yeah, so no. We're two movies.
We're
We're
still
two
not
movies
there.
without Mr. Nobody, but where people are referencing him, like, "Where's Mr. Nobody?" And they're like, "We don't know."
Maybe not.
No, they
talked about him though.
So they talk about whatever's going on with her, and then Vin Diesel's like, "Whatever." And then the next scene,
Not
it has
Mr. Nobody.
Junior
Nobody guy.
Yeah, so
That
he
guy.
comes.
Yeah, that guy.
And so also before that, though, they talk about how Tej, Roman, Han, and Ramsey are going on a mission, and Roman's in charge. He's the leader. And there's a lot of
in Rome.
In Rome, yeah.
In Rome.
Really on the nose. Dante the devil, Roman leading a mission in Rome. They're like, you know what? Let's do this cute thing where we don't even try anymore.
It's ridiculous. Let's just do the biggest of the big.
So they think they're going on a mission for Little Nobody, played by Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood's brother,
son.
not brother, son.
What's his name? Oh my gosh.
Something Scott Eastwood?
Scott Eastwood, yes.
Yeah, go me.
And so Scott Eastwood's like, yeah, Scott Eastwood shows up because they talked. He heard about Cypher, and then Vin Diesel like, yeah, well, Roman and the gang are doing a mission for you. He doesn't say it just like that, but it's basically that.
It's true.
And then he's like, oh, they're not doing a mission for me. And it's like, oh my gosh, there was a setup. Something happened. Plot ensues. Do you want to take it from there, or?
You can keep going, actually, because I'm kind of confused at this point.
Okay,
I mean, because they're in Rome, and then I see a gold Lamborghini, because, of course, Roman has to have a gold Lamborghini, whereas who else was driving with him?
Han had a beat-up
Han had
car,
a really
but
cool...
it was a version of cars that he's driven in Tokyo Drift, so it was kind of a little callback.
Yeah.
Ramsey and Tej were somewhere hacking, probably in a truck, I think.
Honestly, the whole time, like, the storyline with them, just was not.
I
wasn't following.
You could take it out, and maybe you could probably run just as smoothly.
I was not following at all.
So they were in this thing that was orchestrated by Dante, and so it ends with all of their stuff blowing
They're
up.
like, we're gonna be we're remoting, or they're remoting in.
Yeah, and Letty and Dom come to help, but the whole gang gets separated. Letty gets captured. Roman and crew have to go through sewers because they're on the run. Dom does save the Vatican and miraculously stops an exploding bomb without hurting a single person. They actually
without the bomb exploding whatsoever.
I think it did explode.
It did in the water though.
Well, in the water after the timer went off.
Yeah. He saved the day. He saved the whole holy city of the Vatican all by himself, and there wasn't a casualty. They made a point to show a news station where the guy was like, surprisingly, there were no casualties.
Right. I actually have a comment about that as well, and it's the fact that they haven't done that in any other movie, and they are global terrorists.
Yeah.
So the fact that they have done this in any other place as well.
And it shows.
It's just now showing this at the 10th movie.
Yeah, I had this thought when I was watching it that it shows their face on the TV screen like these are the bad guys, and like part of me is like, do you think there's someone watching who remembers them from Fast Five and like again? Like why do these guys keep getting,
stop?
Why
do they keep getting involved in these random explosions?
Yeah. So then you have like three storylines. You have Letty getting out of being held captive with the help of
Cypher.
It ends up being with Cypher, but Brie Larson's character, who's the daughter of Mr. Nobody.
That's right.
Somehow meets Dom.
I'm also lost with her a little bit.
It's okay. She
throws me off the storyline.
One question we can ask later is like, did we bring in too many new characters for this one?
I think they brought in too many new characters.
So especially considering that they're bringing back a returning cast that just keeps ballooning. Right? Like at a certain point, and I think Bailey's right. They're trying to make Marvel because this is their Avengers.
It's like a pick me, choose me movie.
Maybe they were trying to do their version of Infinity War. Even to the point where it ended with a cliffhanger. Like,
Oh, I didn't think about that. You're totally right.
Yeah, they're like,
I think you're right, Bailey.
Fast and Furious
I'm just
Infinity
saying.
War.
I think you nailed it.
So that's a good point.
I know my stuff.
It would make sense too because in previous movies we've been talking about how they've copied the culture of those 8. They had the zombie cars during the time of zombies.
It's the hero's tragedy as well.
Yeah.
The hero's tragedy and the hero's journey, like through pop culture and everything. Literally, Vin Diesel right now, his origin story, we've been seeing it since day one. It wasn't about Paul Walker. It was about Vin Diesel this entire time.
So I think for the first 4 movies, especially 2 since Paul Walker was in it, only one in it, I think they were on even keel. Well, maybe not Tokyo Drift.
I have a theory about
So if you look, okay, let me redirect my statement. 1 and 4, they were even keel. 5 was when which was like the massive revamp of the whole series.
Yeah.
5 was when it became the Vin Diesel show. I felt like they were kind of even on 4. And 1, Vin Diesel was actually the antagonist, and Paul Walker was the protagonist.
Yeah.
So and then
I wonder if Vin Diesel's character Dominic Toretto. I wonder if that is a stage name, and he is actually Xander Cage. And he did like.
Oh my God! Though.
And he did like it was a spy.
For
then
real,
he was like,
though.
I want to retire from this and go back to my family.
That's crazy.
And he's like, I'm retiring from this. And we're watching the Fast and the Furious is him getting sucked back into that life. And that's why all of a sudden this guy that had a grocery store and worked on cars can do all this and has all these instincts is because he was probably bred to be a spy and we just didn't know it.
I think so. That could be it. Letty gets help escaping by Cypher, and they find themselves in Antarctica, and somehow Giselle's still alive. Roman and Tej and Han and Ramsey try to escape, but then they wind up in a plane, and it blows up. And they might be dead, but they're probably not because it's Fast and Furious.
Right.
John Cena does help get the little B of Vin Diesel's son back to Dom. In the process, he does die. Maybe.
He purposely flips his car on some sort of track road area to, I think, blow it up and cause shrapnel to take it out to take him from getting him. But instead of that actually happening, it didn't happen at all. And so he just died.
For nothing.
Yeah. So
for nothing
he
because
really gave it
it's
a good
John
shot.
Cena and you don't see him.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
and then
That's it.
Yeah.
I was thinking you don't see him actually die because
No.
that's the way this movie works. Is we don't know if he's dead.
No.
And then it clicked. Oh, wait a minute.
It's John Cena.
You
He's
can't
still
see
there.
him.
Yeah, you can't see him. So he's also in character. I
Yeah.
love it.
That
He's
took
in
me a second.
character.
That's funny.
And then Jason Momoa
one.
has been being a jerk to Dom because of the whole "you killed my dad" thing. Which okay, fair.
Yeah, but why wait so long?
He was learning everything about him. He was following him. He was.
I mean, his little place where he had all the pictures and stuff was like,
dude, so creepy.
mad creepy.
I loved how creepy
He definitely
was.
had some personality problems.
I saw
yeah.
which
He was
apparently
flamboyant.
He was
I-
great.
I actually thought he
I
was a really
loved
fun
him.
character.
Yeah.
He gave me Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
Like his character reminded me of one of the episodes on Criminal Minds that was literally a person that had multiple personality disorder. Legit was like a serial killer with multiple personality disorder, and I was like, oh my gosh! Even though he wasn't technically with multiple,
Yeah.
that's not really what it was. I was just like, I'm kind of getting this styling
Yeah.
because
Right.
he's a darker criminal character, but with like a bubbly attitude.
Yeah.
So
Who else could make Enchante
He's got real
sound?
Joker
Yeah.
vibes still.
Yeah.
So he's the Joker
Toodaloo.
of the Fast and Furious universe.
He's like Enchante, and I'm like, oh, that's so
so
that's
good.
so
The
maniacal.
theory is
Like,
so
how makes
great.
that sound maniacal? Like,
Yeah.
So the theory is that when he crashed his car and fell into the water, he suffered from brain damage, which just made him more crazy. And then that's why he.
Okay.
And but what's,
That don't check out
I
for real, but it
prefer
does.
brain damaged.
That checks out.
but what's interesting is I feel like what makes him a good villain is in many like there's similarities between him and Vin Diesel and that like they're all about family.
Yeah.
But he is also very different than Vin Diesel. And I mean, you can even argue the flamboyancy versus the masculinity.
Right,
you
right.
You could look at just the way they look. You can look at just the lack of moral compass, like all the things he's gonna be willing to do for his plan. And like Vin Diesel has like standards or whatever.
Well, and there's a clear divide too in how they feel about family. Dante is blood family,
Yeah.
and Vin is very much you don't have to be blood to be family.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's a good villain for the. I don't want him to be like the big bad of the Fast universe, but like
no.
I think he's a good villain for this movie.
Yeah, and for the next apparently.
Yeah. So we'll share more of our thoughts, but let's first share some of your all's thoughts about
Yeah.
Fast and Furious. This was just the question was, what did you think about Fast X? And this is what some friends on Reddit said. A positive example, 3078, says, I liked it. Fun. The movies get more crazy as they go on, but that is part of the fun. It's just entertainment after all.
Yeah.
I love
Fair.
that like when
Okay.
like, people that are like, this movie has a terrible plot. I'm like, have you watched the last like
All of them.
9? And then in a similar manner, Safe Surprise 3001 said, it was stupid and I loved it. Same thing. So
That pretty much sums up my thoughts about the whole franchise at this point. The first one, I was like young enough to not realize how terrible of a movie it was, but I was so into it. And then like the second one was just super fun.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, it's just like this is just a wild ride, and I just got to turn this off to go enjoy something fun for a
absolutely.
couple hours.
I feel like 1 and 3 and debatably 4 had plots.
Yeah.
Now, whether they were good plots or not is up to subject. But it was like the writers were like, let's make a movie with a plot. After that, I don't know, 5 kind of did. Anyway, as soon as I'll start like, I don't know. Really, we'll go 1, 3,
Start
and
second
4.
your guess.
That's
Second
what
guessing yourself.
plots.
Hawkeye from the Avengers said, I wish we could forget 9 existed and just pick up with X.
Me too, Hawkeye. I'm just kidding.
I liked 9 better than this one.
I don't know.
But okay, let me clarify. 9 was
But
a
yeah,
fever
I
dream
did like 9
of
better
just
than this one.
what do the fans want, and let's put that into a movie.
Yeah.
So it was fun and ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 was like, it just, for me, it felt like 10 was like nobody really wanted to be there except for Jason Momoa, who was having a great
Jason
time.
Momoa was like, this is my side project.
He's like, I don't have to get jacked for this one. I'm relaxed.
Like, he's chilling.
We say that, but this other random guy from Reddit, I think I couldn't pronounce his username, so I just wrote guy from Reddit.
Guy from Reddit.
Momoa is a weak villain. Too try hard with the crazy act.
Dang.
Listen, guy from Reddit.
Well, you're too try hard for the comment.
Yeah.
I'm just
We
kidding.
respect your
I'm
opinion
just kidding.
and we disagree. And then
No.
the S-Weed or these weed or these weed Honestly, or just weed for short. Honestly, the worst movie I've ever seen. It was not even entertaining, which at least 4 through 8 were. 1 through 3 were also entertaining, but they were good quality movies. I like how 9 also didn't make it to the list of good.
We just don't talk about 9.
I guess not.
Yeah. So,
man, y'all are gonna hate me.
And then I have a longer review, and I'm going to read it. And the question I'm going to ask you guys is, how much of this do you think was intentional on the movie's part, and just how much of this is us reading into it? So this review comes from Richie, who, if you guys haven't seen our previous episodes, a bonus content episode, and it was just me interviewing Richie. He's a big Fast and Furious fan, and he reached out to our podcast. He saw us through Reddit. He found us on Instagram, and he just shot me a message like, "Hey man, I'd love to do an interview." And I was like, "Sure, why not?" So if you're someone who wants to like talk more in detail about any of the Fast and Furious movies, or when we go into season 2, any of the movies we do there, you could message me and we can try to make it happen. So the Quarter Mile Podcast on Instagram, Quarter Mile Podcast on TikTok, and really just type in the Quarter Mile Podcast anywhere and something will show up. So this is what Richie said about Fast X. It is the most positive review this movie has ever received in its life. So I actually loved Fast X. I know it gets bumped to the bottom of a lot of people's lists, but this movie had a lot of references and callbacks to the past films. I like how 10 started with the heist scene with Fast 5 and then directly cuts to little Brian spiraling out of control in the parking lot. This is how the first film starts off. They showed the heist, and then they cut to Brian O'Connor spiraling out of control while trying to master his eclipse. Speaking of which, there's an eclipse behind us.
Yeah, that one right there. I did not pick up on that, actually. I
Yeah.
have a few more points of respect for this movie for that.
Listen, he's
going to get more. Is he going to turn me?
He gets more. Then he says, the 4-way street race is a reference to the first and second movie. Even the way they set up the characters and the cars on the line. They brought back Diago from Fast 5, and he was driving a green Porsche this time instead of the blue that Brian and Dom won from him. And the green Porsche can be reminiscent of Brian's green Eclipse, again behind us, that was positioned all the way to the right, just like where Diego was in that 4-way race. Isabel Neves was put all the way to the left of the race, and she can be reminiscent of Suki's character, who I really want them to bring back. Suki's character, who was all the way to the left in her 4-way race in Too Fast, Too Furious. Suki also made a name for herself in the streets of Miami, just like Isabel made a name for herself in the streets of Rio. When Isabel first appeared on screen, she said, "What's up? Who's next? Who's next?" This reminded me of Jacob saying the exact same thing during the flashback scene before he raced Dom when they were younger. Then, Dom talked to Isabel about the personalities and similarities of a cop and a street racer. He's letting her know from experience that two unlikely and opposite identities can bond. Dom and Brian from the first movie, Monica Fuentes and Brian in the second movie, Agent Stasek and Brian in the 6, Mr. Nobai and Dom in 7, etc. Then, the hideout aisle that was in F9 was used in F10. The Ford Mustang that Jacob had in the 90s in F9 is also used in F10. This is random. Pete Davidson's character is Boeing.
That's right, Pete Davidson is in this.
Yeah,
oh my God,
so
I forgot
random.
about that.
Why? Anyway, Pete Davidson's character, Boeing, calling Roman an astronaut and asking if he left his money in space was a nice little nod. The silly fight scene between Tej and Roman reminded me of the funny fight scene between Brian and Roman in Too Fast. Han was driving an Alfa Romeo that he drifted in, and the Alfa Romeo was orange and black, which was a nod to his original orange-black Mazda 3X7 and his orange Chevy C10 truck from Fast 4. Han also had an orange and black Harley that he drove in Fast 6. The computer's... Oh, give me a second. Okay. The computer screen that Ramsey hacked into also showed past characters on the monitor that Dante planned to track down. Tego Lego, Rico Santos, Queenie Shaw, which he did track down, Sean Boswell, Suki, Monica Fuentes, Ellie, and Buddy. I don't know who half of those people are, by the way.
Wow.
Then the scene where Dom was apprehended and he had his armored truck with Agent Ames where they were getting attacked was also a nod to the team that was apprehended and attacked in Fast 5. And we have the more obvious reference, like the car backing out of the plane, like in Fast 7, and the submarine from Fast 8. The movie goes high on my list because of all these callbacks and references.
Dang. I think the reason why Fast X is so bad is because they just overloaded us with a bunch of stuff at once. Like, you got so many different things.
Absolutely.
You have references, new people, new situation. Jason Momoa with a personality. Really terrible villain, but also great villain, but also terrible actors, but also good actors. Really interesting plot summary, but no plot summary at all. It's just confusing.
It was a good attempt at making an Avengers movie.
Sure.
But it was an attempt.
It was
not
something
a success.
else. Yeah.
I think it was because your characters in Fast and Furious, including Dominic Toretto, none of them are of like superhero quality.
Right.
Like so like doing an Avengers movie is all about the characters. Also, maybe some of the writing in the maybe it's like we had a lot of actors having to read bad dialogue.
Yeah.
I do feel like from maybe 6 or 7 on, they stopped developing characters. Like if you had a 10 movie series and there's been good character development among the main characters, but it's really just Vin Diesel and then like side characters that help him out in his thing. Like
exactly.
What about Dante though? I mean, bringing him a couple movies, from several movies after his dad dies and coming back and having been studying Ben this whole time.
I thought that was an interesting. I thought
That
that
was very
it's a
interesting
good
approach.
move, but I don't. But is it development or is it just kind of like moving this plot along to where who he is real quick and then we can get into it? Was there development in his character?
I would argue. In Dante's villainous character from 10, we didn't see any development. But usually you don't need to see development from the villains in the movies. But the idea is we've seen development from you know that from 5 to 10 he's getting to where he got to.
Gotcha.
But what we should be seeing is development in Dominic Toretto. And again, they try. Like the whole when he's all gloomy at the beginning at the barbecue, it's because he's like worried about how can he protect his family.
Yeah.
And this whole thing is about his family being in danger, and so you're seeing him having to deal with that fear very real time. But it's weird because he has you never see him in a scene with hardly any of the other characters. Debatably, because what we know from earlier movies, maybe he's really hard to work with. Maybe they don't.
Right.
Maybe they make points but there's a reason. Aside from like trying to give them screen time, that you break the characters up into different plots. And but like with as much history as Dominic Toretto has with all these other characters, I would like to see more interaction. Like characters like Roman, we've had 8 movies with Roman, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe 7 movies with Roman.
Yeah.
Like there's a story there,
Right.
And Tej.
Yeah, same with Tej.
We've had how many movies with him?
Same
8 or 9. Yeah.
So.
And like when did he become a hacker? He just all of a sudden was one of the like
By 5.
Yeah. I was kind of, exactly.
And then like I hate to keep bringing up Marvel, but it's clear that this is the direction they were going with these last couple of movies. I mean, that's not just me, right?
Yeah, because it's like
especially since you've mentioned it now, there's
agents
even more.
Or like it feels like the Nobody organization is like Shield.
Yeah,
basically.
It really does.
So Thanos had a ton of character development in the 2 film arc that he was in. And then we have the ability to do that with Cypher, who is
She should
in
have been
3
the main.
movies. And she could have had that villainous arc, not Thanos exactly, but
So-
something like that. And they just
So I actually learned
Ruined.
a really fun and frustrating fact in my
no.
interview with Richie about how they wanted to end 7 before Paul Walker died. And they ended 7 with a tribute to Paul Walker. The post-credit scene for 7, they were going to introduce Cypher.
Okay.
So at this point, Dom's team's been formed. They were going to introduce Cypher. They were going to have her walking into a room with characters like Tran from the first one, Carter from the second one. I would hope DK would somehow be there. I don't know. But like where she's like assembling like a Legion of Doom of villains, and she's like, they have their team and now we have to build ours. And like so then 8 was gonna be like this group of villains versus this group of
That would have been pretty good.
wouldn't that have been a great movie?
Yeah,
And like
that would have made more sense.
Yeah, but they changed it up. Also honestly part of the problem it seems like with these movies. I'm reading into this a little bit, but like it seems like all the big actors have problems working with Vin Diesel because they're big actors, and he's like, I don't want you to be bigger than me,
That
yeah,
makes
and they're
sense.
all like, but we are.
Right? So
Like,
I also still feel like that Jason Momoa was like a villain bandage on him because he was like the most gruesome of it all. I mean, technically they showed the most gruesome, and like that's why I said Criminal Minds-esque, because he kind of had more of like a sinister
He was a
approach
little more
of villainy.
unhinged.
Yeah.
He was more unhinged, but it was a more eventful villain. I wasn't
Yeah.
bored.
Yeah.
He definitely was like, and when we talk villain
More
rankings,
active.
I put him
He
high
made
on
me
my
forget
list.
literally everybody else.
I feel like he had the most stage time too.
He did.
You
He
could have
did.
argued this was like a Jason Momoa movie.
It felt like he was also a replacement of The Rock in a way too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Like
one
a
big guy for the other.
Yeah, I almost
big
wondered if
Samoan
that was.
dude.
I always felt like John Cena was a replacement for The Rock. Like,
And that's what I had thought until Jason Momoa entered the chat.
Well, they ruined John Cena's character though.
That's
Yeah.
just
His
crazy.
whole arc of like
he's like
him
a
being
wet
bad
towel.
guy. Yeah, him
Yeah.
being a bad guy and then becoming a good guy. But he went
Becoming
from
a
like,
good guy that's just a wimp.
Is it
like what is
Owen?
he?
No, Deckard Shaw
Yeah.
is Jason Statham, right?
Yes.
Okay, Deckard Shaw went from being a bad guy to the part of the team, but his character
never
didn't change.
Yeah, like he stayed the same.
John Cena became
full
a
comic relief.
limp noodle in this second one, and it was like,
Yeah. That was I had that problem too because that's why I don't like that character much because I preferred the characterization in the second one. Like I thought he was fun to watch.
He was
and
better
him,
as that?
Mm-hmm.
and him and Little B, their dynamic, that was fun.
Very much.
But like it was he must have had that character must have gone through so much therapy. Like to get to that, he was in such an emotionally healthy place at that point.
Speaking of therapy, one of my biggest problems with this film is Little B.
Oh my gosh.
Straight kid murdering people.
Yeah. Literally
and
crazy.
No one bats an eye.
He's just like
He's just doing anything.
Laughing.
He
He's
has
having a good
committed
time.
Yeah.
illegal,
just blew
life-altering
up.
decisions, like just killing people.
Explosives, yeah.
And they're like, "Oh yeah," and high-fiving about it, and like
And at no point when they're like in the Mr. Nobody's secret base
Yeah.
is he like sad. Like the only thing he's sad about is like,
No.
where's my dad? Like maybe
Yeah.
because I need to talk to someone about the fact that I just massacred a whole.
Yeah.
Dad, you're gonna be so proud of me. Like the thing is like you have to turn off your brain in these movies, right? And most of the time, I can go in, turn this off, and then just enjoy this ride, right? But when that happened, I was like, okay, now you've gone too far. And did anyone else watching this? I'm curious
Yeah.
how many people other had this same revelation. I was
I
like, wait a
did.
minute, did he just straight murder people and then high five his
Well-
uncle?
Here's what I also felt, right? It was the fact that he wouldn't let him literally curse.
Yeah, but
And
he
then
could
he
kill
just
people.
he just handed the kids explosives,
Yeah.
pretty much. Like he's like, "You want to pull the
You
lever?
want to shoot it?
Yeah, that's fine. Now you can curse
And then he
because
did
you
let him
exploded
curse.
some people, so
is-
now you're allowed."
Which is fair. After you murder someone, I feel like
Right.
cursing isn't. You know.
That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
You go from wet noodle uncle to, now you're letting him do explosives and curse.
He's the cool uncle.
Also,
Because now he's the cool uncle.
speaking
Maybe
of-
he's just confused at
speaking
what
of
he wants to be.
Family members, when Mia sends them off, she looks at her brother and she's like, "Protect him with your life."
Yeah, literally.
I think a nicer sister move would have been like,
Y'all
"You
please
both
be safe."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo.
y'all be safe." That's what she should have said. Y'all
Exactly.
be safe. Fast and Furious, Jackson, Tennessee. But yeah, no,
Go back to Tokyo Drift.
A West Tennessee Fast and Furious would definitely be exotic for the rest of the world.
Sure would be.
You know what it would be? I thought about this several months ago. I was doing a show in Gatlinburg the same weekend that Jeep invasion was happening.
Yes.
What?
I'm
And so
sorry.
it was just a whole crowded streets of Jeeps.
Doorless, topless Jeeps.
And like
Interesting.
rednecks and
It's a
proud
fun
of their
time.
Jeep. A lot of American flags, a lot of
Yeah.
Jeeps. And I was like, if Fast and Furious happened in Tennessee,
This is what
This
it would
would
look
be
like.
it.
I pictured like that scene in 2 when all the cars like left the warehouse, and I was like, it would just be a bunch of Jeeps.
Yeah, but it'd be like all four-wheeling, going over the curbs at
Yep.
2 miles an hour.
Throwing ducks out the window.
Yeah, I love it.
Here's a rubber ducky for you.
Did-
Of Letty and Cypher's relationship and dynamic going on. That was interesting to see.
Yeah, they did. They had a pretty cool fight scene between
said,
the two.
"Trust
of them.
me."
They squandered an opportunity, though, to really develop Cypher's character.
Yeah,
They did.
I think they were trying to, but she went in the whole wrong direction. Like I've said this several reviews. I do not like that they're turning her into a good guy. Like
Well, now, unlike John
She
Cena,
looks like
though,
AI.
she maintained her character. She's still a bad guy. She's in survival mode and hates that she has to team us. It's almost like the
Yeah.
Deckard Shaw thing. But I hope that she doesn't end up like Deckard Shaw and become a team member. I hope she turns back once she's good.
Here's what really bothered me about her in this movie. It was actually the last scene when they figure out Gal Gadot's still alive.
Right.
And Letty is so excited to see her friend, and she's smiling. And then you're looking at the same shot. Cypher's smiling like she's so proud of this good deed that she just had. And I'm like, no, Cypher doesn't smile for good deeds.
No.
Cypher, unless this like
that was an evil intention.
Yeah,
of that.
I want
so
there
weird.
to be. I want there to, but it looked like a genuine, like, oh, I'm happy that nice things are happening.
Yeah.
I hope I hope Giselle's like a robot or a double agent or something like that, and then it turns out that Cypher's in charge of everyone.
Or that Cypher knows something that those other two don't, and she's
Giselle's
like,
terminally ill.
I don't know.
No,
I feel like
she's just like, yeah, go ahead and reunite. I
Yeah.
can't wait to watch what happens next.
I really feel like they're gonna just make Cypher good because
I
they
think so,
made her
too.
look
I hope
like
not.
her face in this movie looked like AI. Like
Yeah.
genuinely just looked like AI. This whole movie seemed like a video game as well.
Oh,
Their
yeah,
lines
definitely.
were very video game esque. Like he got away. I was
that's
like,
a good point.
what's going on? It's
the
like
whole
Call of
franchise
Duty.
feels like a video game.
It
for the last
seriously
5
is just
movies.
crazy.
Yeah, it really
is.
There's actually is a Fast and Furious video game that is in canon with. I've never played it,
which makes sense.
But like, they probably make great games.
That's
like,
just crazy.
I've played a couple of the racing games, like the one over
yeah.
here,
Yeah,
by
yeah.
us,
One behind
the
us.
arcade one, and then also they had one for like PlayStation 2 that was almost like Need for Speed Underground.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was really fun. They didn't have storylines though. I haven't played any that actually had any plot to it.
But I mean, they did. The games definitely came out when those racing games were in
Yeah.
style,
Oh,
and so
yeah.
they played off the Fast and Furious. One thing that I feel like we've never mentioned on our podcast, but it's come up, and so I made a point to put it in notes, knowing that this is the last episode.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about that freaking cross?
Oh, the Rio.
the Dom and Letty's cross that has gone. It
has been passed. It's like the traveling pants, the sisterhood of traveling pants or
Well,
something.
there has to be multiple, right? Because like the
'cause
last
there's
one
two
or
of
whatever
them, at
had
least.
a
I think there
tracking
might
device.
be
There's at least two of them.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
one point they did have a tracking device. In
that was
8,
a
but in 9
replica.
it didn't have a trap.
Right, so that was the original. That
And
was
I think
the actual
Jacob
one.
and Dom have a cross.
Jacob and Dom both have a cross, I think, is the deal.
It was like,
Wait, what if? Wait, no. But Jacob was the bad guy and the one that he used. No, wait. Yeah. So Cypher in the plane wasn't Jacob working for her in that one, or was that the one before that?
that was the before one.
That was when she was
Yeah.
the main villain.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that one had a tracking device, which they might have
So,
just put on.
Yeah, they just
But
made that. I bet
it's just-
Mr. Nobody or somebody made that or something.
It's just so funny because this is when we rewatch it with my friends. Whenever we see that cross, it literally looks like a cheap piece of like silver
It
you
just
got at
looks
like a
like
pawn shop.
I'm gonna
Like,
throw it at a werewolf.
Right.
That'd be a fun drinking game. Like take a shot every time the cross is shown.
Yeah, absolutely. You would. It's significant in all the movies, and it's like it was
That's a
like
pretty
it's what
good
they
one right
use.
there.
It is what they use is objectifying women, or every time you see the cross.
Or every
technically.
time-
Right. Boy, you'd be wasted. Because like there was way more objectifying women in the first half,
Yeah.
and then there was way more cross
Cross
though in the second half.
Either
So,
way, you're getting tanked.
yeah.
You're right. Wow.
It's-
Or when they say family, but then that would just be alcohol poisoning.
Absolutely.
What if they realized halfway through they needed to change their ways and they're like, let's stop objectifying women and start putting this cross.
Well, in this movie, they made a point to be like, you gotta have faith, like this whole
Yeah.
thing. And I was like, that's why all this crazy car thing. I
Yeah.
didn't realize what a Christian movie Fast and Furious was, because like growing up,
Oh,
they used
do
to-
tell.
They used to talk about how if you have the faith of the mustard seed, you can move a mountain. So
Right.
it turns out the reason all these people are surviving all these crazy car accidents is because they have such strong faith that they literally don't get hurt. What do you think about that, Bailey?
I mean, like you told me in this very same configuration several months ago, that's an opinion.
I don't know about that, Drew. I'm pretty sure that from watching the last 10 movies, a lot of people have gotten hurt, including cities being demolished by
But did
bolts.
they have faith like Dominic Toretto?
No, because he has
Brian-
a contract that he can't die.
Little B murdering people, I don't think God's like, I don't want a part of that.
Vin Diesel went to the crossroads and sold his soul to the devil.
Yeah.
So he can't die.
There we go. It
There you go.
is faith, but
When
not
he
in a
was-
way
faith.
where
When he was
when he says
Xander
have
Cage.
Yes,
faith, we're
when he
just
was Xander
assuming
Cage.
he means.
Yes, that is his superpower.
That's crazy, but it's funny because and there was this one. We always talk about how they use the cars to catch people, but there was a scene that I wrote down because they used a car to catch another car.
That is so Fast and Furious. That is almost peak. If they hadn't gone to space, that would be peak Fast and Furious. But going to space was definitely
Going
peak
to
Fast and
space.
Furious.
And that's the thing is, every one of these movies tops the big crazy stunt.
You
This
can't
one-
top space.
How do you
can't-
top
you
space?
can't
They
do-
tried to
I
do
don't know,
rocket
man.
with
That ball bombing the Vatican
That
right
was
off the
for sure,
rip in
though,
the beginning
like
of the
the
movie was
big
like,
scene.
Oh, right.
it came close. They didn't top it,
Right.
but it was definitely a valid effort.
Yeah, I was like, of course, the Vatican.
Yeah.
Right.
What else are you
More
going to
faith.
say?
That's the thing.
More
I'm just
faith,
saying,
yeah. They're trying to destroy the faith, is
you
what they
getting-
were trying to do.
Yeah, but Vin saved it.
They saved it. They did save the
Dominic
faith.
Toretto
He's
solo
turning me
save.
around here.
That's
I think he
right.
might be onto something.
I think
That's true.
you know what?
His
I'm
car
gonna go
lifting
back.
self.
I'm gonna go back in time to when I was a youth pastor, and that's every year I'm gonna show my students Fast and Furious movies and make like God lessons about them. I think I what a wasted opportunity.
Have you
Scary.
watched these movies with that in mind? And
No, it was just this last time because he makes that line. He's like, you gotta have faith.
When
I was like, oh, they're
Fast-
Christian movies.
Right.
It's like Left Behind.
Either when Fast 11 comes out, or since it's not coming out for another year and a half or so, just sometime next year, you might always just do a little run through with that in
devotional.
mind, and just pick out all the things.
Pick all
that make an episode
Fast
just
and
based
Furious
on
through the
that.
Christian lens.
That's
Honestly, like I
Interesting.
could make a killer episode.
That would
That
be
would be a
pretty
great
killer.
episode.
Maybe
Yeah.
I will. Maybe I will. What we know about the upcoming movie.
Okay.
And this is some of it's rumors. Some of it's confirmed. It's set to come out in 2026, and it's currently called because they do great with the names all the time. It's not called F11 or Fast 11. It's currently called
Okay.
Fast X Part 2.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I thought this was supposed to be a trilogy.
There might be a Fast X Part 3. Triple X. It goes right into the Xander
Not
Cage.
triple
That
X.
would be amazing.
That's what happens.
It's the Vin Diesel verse.
What if Dominic Toretto is the backstory and he gets a new name for Xander Cage? Because when Triple X starts, he's already like an established criminal. Maybe a lot of bad stuff happens in the next two Fast movies. And he becomes,
So you think instead of Xander Cage in Triple X being the prequel to Fast and Furious, like my theory, you think it's the other way around? You think the Fast and the Furious is his origin
only
story for Xander
because
Cage?
you could do another Fast
That's
X
fair.
part,
Checks
part
out.
two,
That does check out.
and then the
Then he becomes
next
a spy,
trilogy is a reboot of
super
Triple
spy
X, and it's just
guy.
called Fast Triple X, and it's
So now we got
does
Fast
sense.
and Furious, Triple X, Harry Potter, MCU, and Jurassic World.
Marvel.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're, I mean,
makes a lot of
they
sense.
knew they
Star
need to be
Wars.
stopping some. They
think you
knew
already
they
said
referenced Star Wars in the last movie.
Yeah.
So
Star Wars was in this one.
oh, yeah.
Like the dark and the light. Did you not realize that?
Yeah.
I was like, are you serious right now?
Yeah. Vin Diesel's taking over.
And he is taking over. That's so scary.
Dante the Devil.
I hope that.
Dante the devil.
I hope everyone who's hearing our podcast as they're walking around the museum is like, "Wow, this is the most interesting." I'm going to tune into the rest of their episodes
Yeah.
to see what, or they're like, "What is this?" I'm going to tune into their. I don't
It's
know.
just a bunch of
It's
confusion.
been a much busier day today than
Yeah.
it was the last time we
So
filmed
it's-
I'm
here.
loving it.
Okay, so then the topic of who's coming back in Fast X Part 2, probably everybody. Like, no, death
Right.
isn't permanent if you have enough faith.
Do we have
we
any
know-
predictions for?
We know Gal Gadot's coming back.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting.
Any other returning?
Here's an they haven't confirmed, and so no one who's died has confirmed that they're coming back. Vin Diesel will
Right.
probably be back.
Right.
Cody Walker might come in for some CGI Paul Walker scenes.
Yeah, I've heard
Oh.
So I think that'll be cool if they do it well. Like I don't know how I feel about
How
that.
much faith you have that they're going to do it well?
You know what? I have all the faith in Fast and Furious.
Okay.
I have every
I
faith
believe
in
that.
Fast
What
and
better way to embody family than bring his family in to play him?
Absolutely, I
Post-
think so too.
okay.
Well, speaking of that, there's a fun tidbit. On the plane when it was John Cena and Little B, and they were getting the supplies to parachute out of the plane or get out of the plane.
Oh, that
and-
was his
and
daughter,
the
right?
waitress,
Was Meadow.
Stewart. That was Paul Walker's daughter who was in that scene.
That's Meadow Walker, right?
What?
Is it? I don't know. Yeah. So do you remember when they were in the
stewardess
plane,
is Paul Walker's
and
daughter
the stewardess gave him like alcohol?
to
that
fuel
was-
the rocket with.
That
Yeah.
was Paul Walker's daughter.
What?
Just for fun. Fun. The more you know.
That just adds another to what Richie was saying. Like there were so many little things in this one.
Absolutely.
They almost topped F9 and like
I think
This is like another.
I thought it was like
War.
juice that she gave him.
No, it was like alcohol because they needed
Alcohol?
They
They needed
needed
it to
alcohol
fuel.
for fuel. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you're ever stranded on a plane and you do have another plane. I don't know if that will actually
I
work.
just don't see how alcohol could even help, because wouldn't it dry up?
Not necessarily. I mean, not vodka per se. Like
that's
what
fair,
they
yeah.
did, that was definitely some plot.
That's-
there.
yeah.
But most race cars run on what's called alcohol, and it is pretty much. It's not what you would drink, but it's
That's
a
cool.
very potent form of gasoline.
Yeah. I mean, like, it was like if you suspend disbelief, you're like, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
That's cool.
For someone who's heard of race cars and go, oh, I think they remember saying something about they run on alcohol. It's not beer. It's not hard liquor, but it is a.
It's like a form.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think another thing is, this is potentially a bummer, but there's a rumor that Dante won't be back in Fast X Part 2.
He's busy.
Because it's very expensive and their funds are less than what they used to
He's
be
doing
for the movies.
commercials for like State Farm or
But
something.
what they're
like that.
talking
I don't
about, you know, that post-credit scene where he calls Hobbs and Hobbs like, "Come get me, you son of a bitch," and he crushes his phone. They're talking about that there might be a Hobbs and Reyes spinoff that concludes the storyline with Dante.
Okay.
And then when they do Fast X Part 2, the rumor is that they're going back to the basics and becoming more well-rounded as a street racing movie.
Oh my God, they did replace The Rock with him. They literally replaced. He got his feelings hurt that The Rock and Jason Statham wanted to have their individual movie. So then he was like, no, and then planned, and then went ahead and grabbed Jason Momoa, and then now he's gonna have his
he's gonna get his
second
feelings
movie
hurt with
as
Jason
well.
Momoa, yeah.
But God, I hope not. You have to finish the story.
Right, absolutely.
He's never gonna finish the story. He doesn't want it to be
no.
finished.
Vin Diesel's like, the story's not finished.
It's not
I'm
until
dead.
he's dead. Yeah, literally. That's exactly
You
what
can't
I
leave
feel
this
like. It's going to
movie
be a
on
whole
that.
Hollywood thing.
Fast 20 is going to just be Vin Diesel's
Oh my.
funeral.
You think there's going to be 20 of them?
Oh yeah.
I can only hope.
I was photographing a
I'm
wedding
going to be 40
last
years
night.
old still watching Fast and Furious.
And hate yourself for it, but you can't
But you
not.
can't not.
'cause
I'm too invested
you're too
in these
invested in it.
characters.
I was photographing a wedding last night and ended up talking to one of the coordinators about Fast and Furious, just movies in general.
Love it.
And she was like, "Man, I wish they would end those already." I was like, "We do
I
not
do
have the same
too.
opinion, but also kind of do."
In many ways, they have it.
Need to be done.
Okay, so let's talk about our what if you could write the perfect ending for Fast and Furious. Who wants to go first?
Okay, Bailey's looking at me. So.
Come on, Alan.
All right. So how it should have ended? They should have ended it in 10 when they said they were going to.
Yeah.
But no, I think that wasn't it supposed to be the last one?
I mean,
I went into 10 thinking this was the end, and that what I heard was this was going to be the end of this storyline, and then they were going to start doing spin-off movies like Hobbs and Shaw with other characters.
At one point, they did say this was going to be the last one, but then not long before it came out, they said it's a two-parter, and now there's rumors that it's actually a three-parter.
I didn't know it was a two-parter when I went in, so I was really
if this was
upset
the
when we
last
got
movie?
to the
Yeah.
end.
I know, me too.
I was like, really? But more about that later when we talk about our rankings. I think that, so we ended on a cliffhanger, right? Where everybody's pretty much dead. Dante wins, essentially, Vin Diesel and his son. Don't they go into the water?
Yeah, they
end
swim
up
away.
underwater,
They
right?
make it underwater, and they.
Well, that's all we see.
Yeah.
We don't know what happens after that. But they crash land into the water.
Yeah.
Okay. So
You're like, did they?
I think
This movie was just so beyond me.
there's so much stuff happens. Hard to
So
remember.
much happens. It's hard to remember. I watched it last night.
And you're just like,
There's so much that happens.
my brain hurts. It's like
when
ibuprofen
it ends,
afterwards.
my reaction was like, okay.
Yeah, I was mad. And then I was like, really? So I think that Jesse should come back and save all of them.
Yes.
Aw.
All of them. The plane,
He was smart.
Jacob, all of them. We find out
Yeah.
that he saved everybody, right?
He's the brains.
And then he turns on them.
Oh, well, dang.
Well. Yeah. And then what happens then? Does he kill them all, and that's how the movie ends?
He's working with Cypher. And,
cool.
And they are trying to take down Dante.
Oh.
And now you have the Fast and Furious crew against Dante, and then you have heel Jesse and Cypher against Dante, but also against all of them against them. So it's just now instead of a clear one-on-one, you have this three-way fight going on where there's not a clear good guy or bad guy in it.
Huh.
And they all have similar goals and they all want to go against each other too. So I think that could make for a very interesting, huge Marvel-esque ending to the franchise. And then that's where you also bring back Neela and
Nope, she's not coming back. She refuses.
She's not going to do it.
I wish though.
Recast her.
I feel like I feel like after this past week, I feel like I have an odd connection with Neela. Like, I know I can't wait for someone to be like, does anyone have any weird facts about Netflix?
Well, the thing is that for with Suki and her character, Eva Mendes, like there's been a lot of great female characters in these movies, but they don't come back.
No.
They come back a little bit.
Yeah.
They have little bitty roles, but they don't have significant roles.
Unless it's Michelle Rodriguez. It's like
she's pretty much it. And even they even killed her off for a minute. It was like, wait a minute, we have an all male cast here. Maybe we should bring back like one or two of them.
Do you have any theories on why they don't have a lot of female representation?
Yeah,
in these movies,
there was something behind that.
I don't know.
Okay.
This is just one of those movies that's like a
bro movie.
Not particularly just that, but like even more of I'm in a college dorm watching this with a bunch of bros.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just a different vibe.
Yeah.
It's just a different vibe. So maybe the women were there for a second season of their lives.
Yeah.
And decided otherwise.
Not so much.
I don't know.
I think that the theory of like just three-way issue with Jesse and everyone was cool, but like also what I want to happen though is I want it to go back to the car movie.
Yeah.
Like they're saying it's going to and back to its root. And in that case you could bring Jesse back, and they some miraculous way, and maybe he does save them, and he's like, and they all just go back to living normal lives.
Adam from last month's episode, you guys remember Adam? He has a theory, and he didn't send me this video, but his theory is that because the only thing they haven't done in these movies yet is time travel, right?
Oh no!
So the start of the
films.
movie is there's some kind of situation where they need some kind of genius car mind to fix some kind of thing, right? Insert plot there, and then they realize the only one that they know that could have possibly done something this awesome is Jesse. So they go back in time to the first movie and they save him, and then
so that he'll be there.
There's the DeLorean, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, Cypher already has the car for it.
Cypher has.
But then if you think about it, think about the second Avengers Infinity War movie.
Yeah, it was time
travel.
Well, at the end of at the end of both Infinity War and this, it's total impending doom.
And literally,
I mean, everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Well, in that movie, half of them were dead, but in this one, like, so like, where do you go from here? And everyone was thinking that, and both who went to see both these films, like, where do they go now? How do they fix this? And that's how they fixed it there. So man,
they rewind it.
They're good. Yeah, I don't know. So Bailey, you're in the director's chair now. How are we ending Fast and Furious?
All right. So for Fast and Furious, I think that Mr. Nobody's gonna come back because he's been missing for like 2 movies.
Yeah.
And they didn't explain where he was necessarily, but the last time we saw him, he was on this screen looking like he was getting, like, I guess, punched or something, beaten a little bit. I don't know. But then again, maybe he was just in a random place that was just hidden or something. I couldn't tell if it was something that was like a ploy, trying to make them think that he was getting hurt, or if he was actually... But I don't really think so. I think that this is his plan all along. And I think they're trying to set this up to where he's actually the villain. And his whole plot line is just chaos because he likes chaos.
Because he's crazy.
Because this is nobody's world only.
Yeah.
And,
like Joker?
Right. So I'm thinking Mr. Nobody is the dude that's like... got the strings that he's pulling, because he's already been doing that anyways. He literally was able to get them out of one of the biggest prisons with big old guards with rubber bullets. That makes no sense for the fact that high security prison has rubber bullets. Mr. Nobody is involved, therefore he probably owns the high security prison. And then I don't really think they're gonna bring back... I do think they'll bring back people. I do. I hope they don't bring back Paul Walker, because can we just leave that how it is, please? This was a real person.
But do you think that by not it, obviously him being gone for real has left a hole in the franchise
Yes.
as a person, but also character-wise, it seems weird that he's been missing for
It
like
is.
4 movies.
It's so strange.
And he's just like hanging
taking
out
care of the kids.
with the kid,
And
and
they're
that
just
would
like-
not be the case if
he's
he was
being
still
a dad.
alive. Yeah,
They're literally milking the crap out of the situation.
Because in Fast and Furious,
that's fair.
Having a family and taking care of kids instead of
Being a spy,
is like death.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's dark. But I feel like if good writers and a good producers could make a case and bring him back and finish the story in a way that pays homage and gives us the true ending that we all deserve,
Right.
with that character. Don't know that I have faith that the Fast and Furious writers and producers are the ones that will handle that well.
So not in the movie you're directing.
So
Paul
not in the
Walker's
movie
not.
that I'm directing,
Paul's
but
not
I'm not saying that he's not in the storyline. Because like y'all were saying, he's disappeared. But like also at the same time, he's still in the storyline anyways. So he's just not really like talked about strangely in a way. But I mean, we know why, but we don't know why. But Mr. Nobody's pretty much in charge of like him, because he used to be the police and
they're working
involved in all of
together,
that.
yeah.
Because like in the very beginning, he was involved with this agency that was fancy, and it was like that nice little house and stuff.
That would actually be an interesting way to bring
That
it
ended
back.
up being his house.
Yeah, and
Well,
end up being
yeah.
the place that he's hiding, and
that
it's
is-
that little house that he's actually hiding at, and it'd be like a
Cappuccino
basement
machine.
or something.
I like that. Okay. Anything else in your perfect movie?
I don't really know exactly how it would end, minus the
Maybe
fact
it never
that
does.
he would the fact that he would just own everybody is my thing, because I think he's the true like puppet master, but that's just because he has the most recognizable face to me.
And it would be the opposite of what we've been getting, right? We've
It's
been getting a
literally
bad
the
guy
quite
that turns
opposite.
good.
Yeah.
And we find out on the very end
I want
that
the
it's
good guy
the
to turn
good guy
bad.
that was
Yeah.
actually the bad guy the
I
whole
would rather
time.
have that.
Yeah. That'd be, you
like
said
that,
that
yeah.
time travel is one thing they hadn't done.
Yeah.
That's something else they haven't done is the opposite.
Well, because the few times they've brought in double agents, it's been really weak, and it hasn't been
Yeah.
one of the major characters.
Yeah.
I think Giselle could be a good double agent.
Giselle could be a good double agent. Maybe she's
because-
mind washed. I don't know,
Yeah, something
brainwashed.
like that. Because why else would Cypher be smiling when she sees Giselle?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And we also have Han that came back
Exactly.
miraculously. We don't know that he's not
Yeah.
making his comeback now, working
Yeah.
for Mr. Nobody. And maybe he's
because he was working with Mr. Nobody.
yeah,
once.
maybe he's a bad guy too.
Exactly, and I hope that he is, because
I
he would be
don't.
so
Yeah.
good as a bad guy.
He's so cool.
Well,
I
and
know,
then it
he
would
is
go
cool.
back to he wasn't a good
He'd
guy
be a
in Better
cool
Luck
bad guy,
Tomorrow.
though.
That's true. He was a
He
bad
was
guy.
never a good
Oh,
guy.
really?
Oh
I've
no,
never
he was
even seen
terrible.
that movie.
It was
Yeah.
about a bunch of. It was about a bunch of
Just
rich Asian
saying.
kids who wanted to break out of the rich Asian kid stereotype of having to go to be doctors and lawyers and get jobs and make lots of money. And he's like, no, we're going to do crime. We're going to do illegal stuff.
Saying, and then
Yeah.
he got picked
See?
up by Mr.
He's the cool bad guy. There you
Very
go,
good.
and it goes
There-
all the way back to that. That's when he got picked up.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna add. I think I'm gonna take Bailey's script and I'm gonna use that as part of mine.
Yeah.
I am gonna bother
Yeah,
your.
yeah.
There's something about my script that you won't like, and I apologize in advance. But if you were with us for the seventh, no, it was definitely the eighth movie, because it was when you were very high.
Stop it!
It was definitely the eighth. I've already alluded to this theory, but I feel like I've increased it since then. So this is my theory. But I like starting with where you're at. So Mr. Nobody's in charge of everything. There's a lot of bad guys at play. Cypher's
Yep.
been bad from the beginning, so she's working with Mr. Nobody. Jason Momoa is also working with Mr. Nobody, but it's it's personal for him. That's like he's crazy, but so the start of this movie, like this, you have this incredibly powerful villainous gang, and so this is the end of the series, so they do the one thing that they've never done in any of the series, which is keep death permanent, and the start of the movie is just about all of the main characters being murdered.
Oh.
Because it seems like the bad guy's plan is working. And so okay, I'm going to keep one. Well, obviously, Vin Diesel stays alive. You can't kill Vin Diesel.
Well, it is the Diesel verse.
So he has to stay alive. I need another character for dialogue. So I like Ludacris, guys. Ludacris is gonna be the only one that survives, right?
That's fair.
So everyone else dies in a tragic way. It's bummer, but that's the way.
What about Little B? Is he gone?
Yeah.
For like
Yeah,
to
I'm fine with
drive.
that. Yeah. That's okay.
to,
Kill the kid.
Because you're wanting to. I don't know. That's tough.
I mean, it doesn't even make any sense. How did he get that big?
Right? Yeah. Turns out he wasn't even the real. He was a double agent too.
No way. Not that quickly. He's like 9.
So there's a scene where they're just looking at all the turmoil, and it's just Dominic Toretto and Ludacris, and Ludacris is like, "Oh man, what are we gonna do?" And he's like, "I don't know." And then suddenly, Doctor Strange portals start opening up. First one, Groot walks out. Second one, Xander Cage walks out. Third one, the pacifier walks out. Fourth one, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Vin Diesel playing himself as Vin Diesel walks out.
A body double,
right? He's like, I'm Vin. I'm Mark Sinclair, and I'm here to help. And like, so then, of course, Ludacris. This is when they somehow become aware of the variants and multiverse. He's like, damn, Dom, you got a lot of variants. Of course, Dom says, I don't got variants, I got family. And that's like the whole group of, so they fight and they almost save the day, but in the second to last battle, they lose. And they're like, what are we going to do? They have to retreat. And like, what are we going to do? We don't have enough people. And then a final multiverse Doctor Strange ring opens up and the real Paul Walker comes out.
No.
Like, because it turns out in every Fast and Furious movie, they've always been like, we have to up our stunt, but this is the last one. And how are you going to up space? How are you going to up the way you up a stunt like that is you fake a real life death. And it turns out for the past 20 plus years,
it's like Michael Jackson.
Paul Walker has been alive. Witness protection, Hollywood protection,
building to this comeback.
And Fast and Furious goes on to the first movie in history to fake a main character's death in real life to have a stunt in their movie.
Wow.
And so with Paul Walker's
only
help,
Vin Diesel.
Yeah. Turns out everyone knew about it who worked for Fast and Furious, and they've just been keeping biggest.
And that's why all the women don't want to work for it anymore, because they already know and they're annoyed.
Yeah,
they got more empathy for some reason.
What if they didn't tell everybody, and that's why they had to kill everybody off? Because Tyrese and Senko and stuff it's like, wait, we don't want to give the plot away, so we're gonna have to at the end of the movie.
Y'all did.
So Ludacris and Vin Diesel are going to be the only people that know when we go to film this super secret end scene.
That makes sense.
Of course, it's Ludacris and Vin Diesel.
I just feel like
the first 2 movies.
Yeah,
right.
And then the soundtrack be only by Ludacris.
Of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, I would have been okay with
that. Would be okay though. That'd be fine. Yeah.
So, anyway, so that's my perfect unrealistic ending.
I like that.
We're gonna jump to our villains and movie rankings. We're gonna do villains first, but the rule we gave ourselves for this episode is now that we've seen all 10 of them, we're allowed to change them completely. Mm-hmm. And I know I changed all of mine completely. So we're gonna do villains first, and then we're gonna do our movie rankings. And before we talk to about our movie rankings, we're gonna share about the big ongoing poll we've had since January. Mm-hmm. So, who wants to start with villain rankings?
I got you. So I don't know if mine has been exactly the same or not, but I think I changed it up pretty decently. I don't know, but I put Dante, and then I put Owen, Cypher, Carter, DK, Deckard, Braga, Tran, Jacob, and then Reyes.
All right. Any opinions onto why they were the best or the worst or
Jacob went to the bottom because of this movie.
Yep. I feel that.
Reyes was at the bottom because he's been at the bottom. Mm-hmm. Tran is the same. Braga for the most part. The same for everybody else. Deckard, he's in the middle. He's a good old fighter, but
I feel like the more you learned about his character,
he's not really a bad guy necessarily. So DK was technically a villain, so I mean, he had to be above Deckard. So Deckard's kind of like a chaotic neutral in a way. Yeah. So Carter obviously was just worse than him because he killed people. Mm-hmm. So did Deckard, but I feel like he was more of just his own self. So whatever. Cypher. And then Owen, and then Dante. I don't know. I don't really have much more explanation.
Yeah.
Dante, the reason why I chose him is just because I was actually excited to watch somebody as a villain.
Yeah, he did a really great job.
That was proof enough.
Debatably, he was the best part of 10.
Yeah, he was the best part of 10.
I feel like, yeah.
That
that's
was
how I feel.
definitely true.
What about your rankings, Alan?
I agree with that. I think that he was the best part of 10. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start from the bottom. Number 10, this is just to clarify, 10 is like a terrible villain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 1 is like a great villain.
Yes.
Because that can be confusing when you're talking about
Yeah, well, yeah,
the best, baddest
one
bad
is
guy.
a great
Exactly.
bad guy.
And 10 is a terrible bad
yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Great
So-
at being a bad guy.
Right. So for me, 10 is Johnny Tran. Even though he's the OG, he really was just when you look at the entire franchise, it's like, oh, he was just, he was just a kid doing some gangster stuff, kind of like DK,
Yeah.
right? So he's worse at being a bad guy and a playing gangster than
Right.
the actual Tokyo guy playing gangster. So I put Johnny Tran as 10, and then DK as number 9. Braga number 8. I felt like Braga was an interesting character when we found out that it was not. He was him the whole time. But Hernan, is it Hernan Reyes? Is Dante's dad?
Is it Hernan or Herman? I don't feel like it's Herman. Herman sounds
No,
not
it's Hernan.
villain.
I think it's Hernan Reyes. Anyway,
Herb.
I feel like he was like a drug lord, but he tried to be scary, but he was like pretty clueless that all this stuff was happening. He was not a good bad guy. Carter Verone was vicious and a really, really great bad guy between the first 3 movies, maybe even the first 4. I'd put him at the top of the list, right? But he quickly got surpassed. I think Jacob. I put Jacob at number 5 because I think Jacob in the bad guy movie in F9 was a pretty decent equal to Vin Diesel, Dominic Toretto's character. He was because it literally was his brother. And I thought that was an interesting dynamic. I thought that was a good play, and then they ruined it in 10. But I really enjoyed him as like a super spy. He would make a good Bond villain. I think that he was pretty decent. But Owen Shaw, I felt, was a little bit more hard-edged than Jacob was. And Deckard Shaw, I felt like was he was big brother that was like, okay, now you've made me mad, and I'm about to take you out for messing with my little brother. So I feel like he was even above Owen
Side
Shaw.
note, in this movie, can you think of anyone worse to kidnap the mother of than Deckard Shaw?
Right,
Like when he was loading all the stuff, I was
Yes. Like, I feel so bad for what he's about to do.
yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
And then for number 2, I put Cypher. I think that Cypher was a very, very good villain and could have been better. And there's hope still that Cypher could bring it back around and really be a decent, diabolical, really twisted villain. But to me, I agree with Bailey that Dante was a fun villain to watch. I bought into everything he was doing. The flamboyancy of it all was done in a way that it was like kind of ominous, the way that he carried himself so freely and so lightly, but he was so malicious that it was like he just didn't give an F. Like it was like, this dude is seriously mentally twisted and that makes him very, very dangerous. And
like
scary.
when he was in the car with Little B and talking to him as he was doing all this terrible thing. It was so weird how calm he was talking to him as he was
like painting his fingernails in a robe, hanging out with 2 dead guys, and having a conversation. I mean,
which, by the way, that was an improvised scene.
Oh, was
by
it?
Jason Momoa.
Of course it
wow.
was. I kind of figured.
that to me, I don't want to, I want to be careful in comparing that character to the Joker that we got in the Nolan Batman films. But I think, when the Joker's like, sometimes I just want to watch the world burn or whatever, like just the chaos of that character. That's what makes those dangerous. You can't predict what they're going to do. They don't really care about anything. They have nothing left to live for, so they just create chaos. Those, to me, are the most dangerous and most maniacal villains, and I think Dante was very much that in this film. we'll see if they ruin it going forward.
Yeah, I swear, if he becomes
The
one of Vin
good guys.
friends again, I swear.
Great.
So I'm gonna go.
Why'd you even put that out in the universe? Because now it's gonna happen because you said something.
I hope not. Some of the Fast and Furious people are gonna pick up. Oh, that's what the fan wants. Okay. I'm gonna go from top to bottom. Just in my brain that's organizes better. But so I did put Cypher as number one.
So you still think that you're holding out
Even though you
hope?
hate her.
holding out hope that she still stays.
Fair
evil.
enough.
If she doesn't stay evil, then she lost her good villainess by 8.
Yeah,
But
but if she does, she could top
yeah,
Dante.
She is. I put Dante as number 2. I mean, he carried this movie. He was one of the most interesting villains we saw. I loved watching I know when we talked about 2, which is so funny because I think that's like our worst episode. But I referenced it so many times.
Yeah.
When we talked about 2, we talked about how fun it was watching Carter as a psychopath.
Yeah.
But honestly, compared to Dante, Carter is like small potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Dante as number 2. I put Owen Shaw as number 3. I thought he was a good even match. That him and his crew versus the N6, that was good. I did put Carter as number 4 because I thought he was crazy. That rat scene is still something I think about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I put Deckard Shaw as number 5. He would have been higher, but he's become a good guy. Like he's I don't feel like he's as villainous. And the truth is if you think about it, the 7th movie could have happened without him.
Yeah.
Except for like a few key scenes, like he never. Anyway, check out our 7th movie review if you want. For number 6, I put DK. I actually thought the only one of the redeeming factors of Tokyo Drift was the character development in it, and they actually made you feel for him as a villain, but also it's not like with Deckard Shaw, where you're like, oh, I get it. With him, you're like, no, you're still a jerk, but I always understand how you became a jerk. And then the last few were villains who didn't do much for me. Braga is after DK. I thought he was a good villain compared to the other 3. Jacob, I didn't even think he was a good villain in 9. Like I think if the way they could have saved his character in 9 is if they made Cypher in charge and she hired Jacob, then he would have been a good henchman. But asking like such a big name to be a henchman is probably not the way to do it. And then Tran for the second to last villain, he was good for a first movie. And then Reyes, kind of like you were saying, he had one scene where he tortured them, and then other than that, he was just like it seemed like he was the cartel's accountant, is what it felt like.
He fell for everything. Yeah, he was not one step ahead like the others.
I never knew that he was the bad guy whenever I was watching it because he wasn't good at what he was doing.
Let's move on to movie rankings. And so what I'm going to share the overall poll that we did for the past few months and the results for that, and then we'll do our own movie rankings. So for context, since we started this podcast, we've been inviting people on Reddit. We've been talking about Vin Diesel too much. Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Anyone who wants you to kind of give us their rankings of the movies. And then we've been, if someone says it's their number 1 movie, we've been giving it 10 points. And if they say it's their number 10 movie, we've been giving it 1 point. So we've had 80 people over the past few months give their opinions, and so now I'm going to read the list of movies, and then I will tell you, and I'll tell you how many points they have.
Yeah, I want to see how it compares to mine.
So for number 1, the fans have rated Fast 5 as the best movie with 613 points. Number 2, they ranked The Fast and the Furious with 610 points. So there's only a 3-point difference between those two. And I have a fun fact about that here in a second. Number 3, they ranked Furious 7 with 509 points. For number 4, which is the big debate in the Reddit polls, people don't believe that this movie got this high, but for number 4, they ranked Too Fast, Too Furious with 478 points. Number 5, Tokyo Drift for 462 points. Number 6, Fast and Furious 6 for 429 points. For 7, it's Fast and Furious is in the 4th movie for 333 points. For number 8, they picked The Fate of the Furious for 266 points. For 9, they picked Fast X for 243 points.
What?
Right? And then for 10, F9, The Fast Saga, they put for 186 points. So 10,
wow.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about their rankings so far?
Different from mine.
Well, yeah, definitely. But I totally expected 8, 9, and 10 to go in order at the bottom.
Yeah, no, nine and 10.
But 10
switched
is
a little
yeah.
bit.
That's what that surprises me that 9 is considered the worst over X. I would have. Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Well, in reading the comments, it doesn't surprise me because everyone craps on 9.
Really?
But, like, in my opinion, watching the 2, it surprises me because I thought 9 was so much better than 10.
I did too.
So here's a few fun facts about the poll. So 25 people voted Fast 5 as their number 1 movie. But 26 people voted for Fast 1 as the best movie. So if I had done the poll where I just cared about your number 1 pick, the Fast and the Furious would have won the poll. But by doing it with the scale, that's how Fast 5 won. I'm going to try to phrase this how I wrote this, and I don't think it will make much sense. So will help me clarify if I need to. 31 people voted F9 as the worst movie, and that was our highest number in the poll. Like, that was the most people put it as number 10 over any other.
More people were passionate about it being the worst than any other movies ranking in the whole list.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Here's something that's interesting, and I like this because it's a testament to my favorite of the series. Nobody ranked, not as in Kurt Russell, actual nobody in the polls, ranked Furious 7 as the worst or second worst. So nobody ranked Furious 7 as the worst or second worst, and nobody ranked Fast X as the best. We did have one person rank Fast 9 as the best. I remember because I commented, like, you were a brave person for writing that on media. So.
Did anybody pick Tokyo Drift as number 1?
Oh, so many people picked.
Really?
Many picked, yeah.
So I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no. A lot of people picked that. There's a lot of people that will tell you that the first 3 movies are the only ones worth watching, and that number 3 was the best.
Okay.
And the last little fun fact before we get into our rankings.
That checks out. That's what I got.
Too Fast, Too Furious, among all of these movies, gets a terrible rep. Like when people talk about it, when I was listening to podcasts, like everybody was talking about how terrible this movie was. But only one person on our ranking ranked it the worst.
Out of 80.
Out of 80, yeah.
All right.
So, fun facts with our poll. But we do appreciate you all giving your online polls and stuff like that. Feel free, if you want to comment and still share them. I know I know a few people that are watching the movies right now and sharing with me their rankings as they watch them. So you can do that if you want. But officially, our poll is over. But what I'm now very interested in is what are your all's rankings? What are our rankings?
I think I got my number switched. What number was Tokyo Drift?
That was the third one.
That was the third one?
Yep. I'll go first.
Okay,
we'll
go
in reverse.
Okay.
And then,
Either way, I'm fine. I'm fine.
So in my brain, I broke these up as like gold medal movies, silver medal movies, and bronze medal movies.
Yeah.
Because, and I have to always say, like, these are all my favorite movies. So even when I'm like, this is the worst, I still enjoyed watching it. But in my opinion, 7 was the best. It would have been the best possible time to end it. I enjoyed it the most. It had what Fast and Furious does, it did it the best. I think 5 was the second best, and then I think 6 was the third best. So 7, 5, and 6 gold medals. Those are great. And I feel like 5 could have been the ending, 6 could have been a better ending, and 7 was like the best ending if they ended it there.
So you picked the heist movies as your favorites. Well, when we go into the superhero stuff, you're like, eh.
Yeah.
And then the origin, you're like, eh.
Well, and the origin, I'm going to give my silver medal category to. So my fourth favorite was the first, and it's because it started everything. It set the culture. I have watched it too many times where I don't enjoy it as much now. But, like, on the other hand, there are some, like that scene with Vin Diesel when he's, like, at the race and he's like, you almost won. You never had it. Like, I feel like I could quote that whole scene. It's like peak Vin Diesel.
Makes sense.
So 1, I put as 4. 2, I put as 5, just because it was fun. Like, what a weird, ridiculous, fun movie.
I know that me and Bailey enjoyed that. I'm surprised but happy to hear you also just, like, that was a super fun time.
It's just a fun time, like, and that's why and I think 2 was ahead of its time in Fast and Furious culture. 2 did what we started seeing 5, 6, 7, and beyond do. But at 2, we were like, well, that's dumb. But by 5, we were like, that's amazing. So, and then I put 3 as number 6. I have a hard time saying nice things about 3, but I'm going to do it. It does have the best character development of the whole franchise. It does have the best attempt at a plot. And you could argue, I would say number 1 and 2, if you just look at Brian O'Connor's character, there is character development between those two movies. But aside from that, once you get to 3 is where we actually start seeing any character development, and debatably the only one that we do see character development in. And then, so 7, this is where I start getting to my movies that weren't that great. Like, this is my bronze category. I'm going to go 9, I thought was a fun movie. I thought is for the fans. They did all the ridiculous things everyone had been wanting. They did a lot of callbacks. It was a stupid plot, but, like, it checked out. You were just like, okay, whatever.
In this world.
So 4, I didn't much care for. I did love that it brought the series back. Love that it brought the main characters back. It tried to go dark, which doesn't do well in Fast and Furious. So we got dark Dominic Toretto, and we saw him a little bit in 8, but it just didn't work well. 8, I put as my 9th favorite one. Kind of same thing, still dark, but like still fun. And 10 I put at the end because it's just not as good as the other ones. Like the Jason Momoa is the redeeming factor.
Yeah.
And other than that, I was like, eh. It looked like none of the actors were enjoying themselves.
It really did, except Jason Momoa.
Yeah, except he was having a blast.
Yeah.
So
He was just having
and
fun.
Little B apparently was having a blast.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
but all the other actors, it felt dry. It felt like I was watching a movie of stale Cheez-Its. Like, they were good, but like they would have been better if I'd eaten them earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's my thoughts.
All right, so my number 1 is Tokyo Drift. That introduced a world to me that I was not previously aware of. Being a car guy, I wasn't aware of drifting, and I think that kind of kickstarted. It made drifting a lot bigger in the United States, and it's now like 10 years. Well, when did that movie come out?
Oh gosh, 2004.
Yeah, so
6.
a decade.
No,
almost 2 decades later.
Yeah.
2 decades later, that's a big sport in the automotive world in the United States. And so I think that has something to do with it. So the cultural impact of that movie, as far as production goes, it was so pretty. It was so well shot. Like they really, really took their time with that movie to make it look cool, and because they knew they were bringing Tokyo to the United States, and they wanted to show it off and make it, even though they didn't film it all in Tokyo. But anyway, it was that to me, and I think maybe the plot, the character development being the better of the series, in my opinion. The time of life that I was in, I feel like has something to do with that. Being in a car club, going with a group of people to see it. That to me it's kind of like the Star Wars movies. Like The Phantom Menace is most people's they hate that movie, but to me it was my first experience of Star Wars.
Okay.
So it's different for me, and I think that even though I'd seen the first 2 movies, just where I was at in life when that movie came out definitely skews my perspective some. But to me that was my personal favorite. Too Fast, Too Furious is my second, and it's because it's just such a peak Fast and Furious from a fun standpoint. It was Miami, which was also kind of exotic, compared to the LA, one that was more gritty, and it was just a super fun time. I felt like you're saying that it was stale crackers in 10. I feel like in 2 was peak, like they were having fun. That movie.
Yeah, they were having a blast.
They were hanging out in Miami. They got to run a car on a boat. They got to be on a boat.
Paul Walker and Tyrese in those movies just looked like they were having
a blast.
Really do.
Yeah. 3, I tried to keep the cultural, the original Fast and Furious is number 3 for me, and it's not if we're talking about importance of the films, that film has done so much. Where we were literally in a museum of cars.
Yeah.
That might not exist if it weren't for, there's movie cars and there's always going to be the Batmobile and stuff, but this place had a bunch of traffic come through here today, and a lot of them were looking at the car behind us and the blue skyline.
It wasn't that they were looking at the random people having a conversation.
No, they definitely did that. But I noticed that people were kind of mad that we were in front of the car. Yeah. They're trying to get pictures of the car. First, I'm thinking, oh, they're getting pictures of us, and then they walk, and they're like, oh, I can't see the car because of him.
Yeah.
So it's that. You can't deny the impact that first film had on car culture and bringing it to people who might not have, like you, who wasn't even a car person, but it just got you into this world, right? So, and now you got a Honda Civic.
That's right.
And you got your Fast and Furious Ford. You got a Focus or Fiesta?
A Focus.
Focus, yeah. I had a Focus.
Was it Focus in any of them? Oh wait, that's Paul Walker eventually drive, or maybe not.
No,
Fiesta?
I don't think so. I know that I would probably recognize it if they did had one because I drove a Ford Focus for a long time. and it was very Fast and Furious out. But it would be number one if we're just going based on that. But it's number 3 as far as like my favorite of the franchise, and that kind of rounds out my top. You know, like you had yours broken up into the segments. So it's 3, 2, 1, and then for me everything else in order because I'm lazy. And I could really make a passionate points about the first 3, and the rest of them I could. If they ended at 3, I would have been fine. But I'm so
comment a lot on Reddit.
I'm so invested in the characters now that I just keep kind of like Bailey's like, oh God, if they make 20, I'm gonna have to watch them now. But they're fun rides, and I just wish that they would pick a genre and stay in it.
Right.
Yeah, stay in your lane.
I'm a car guy, so
Nice.
nice. So them first 3 for me were the epitome of what the Fast and Furious and car movies were, and I really hope that they get back to that. And with 10. Like I have a little bit more respect for that movie now after listening to Richie's thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those callbacks, I didn't get half of those.
I wish all of us could view the Fast and Furious through the lens of Richie.
The main reason that I put 10 at the bottom of my list is for one reason only. And this is very personal to me. It's probably not a popular opinion of other people. I don't know. But for me, when I go spend an hour and a half or 2 hours at a theater or at the house and give my time to a film, I want a story.
Yeah.
And when you end a film in the middle of a story, that straight pisses me off.
I don't love it either.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. And that ruined 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
because I also went into it thinking this was the last one.
Yeah.
And I was so ready for like the climax, the ending of this whole franchise.
What if they never make another movie and that is the last one?
Oh, that would be. Oh,
That would suck.
It would ruin the whole franchise for me.
It would.
Yep.
I put 7 was the first one that I did, just because everybody comes back, and then 1 is for number 2 because that's Fast and Furious. I mean, you gotta have that. And then 9 is number 3 for me.
Wow.
This is where I say for you guys not to hate me, because I think this is a newer generation thing. I really do, and I'm going to call myself out for it. I am. But
Okay.
I think it's just because it caters to a newer demographic a little bit, so that might be it. And the current demographic hates it because that's the base of the fan
Yeah,
base. So
absolutely.
that's probably why people hate it. But then 3 is number 4. Too Fast, Too Furious is number 5. 6 is number 6.
Okay.
5 is number 7. 4 is number 8. 8 is 9.
Okay.
And then 10 is the last one.
Perfect.
So if y'all are confused, y'all will see. But I was honestly, the biggest thing is the in-betweeners. Like 6. I don't remember Fast and Furious 6 very much, sadly.
That's okay. You can rewatch it if you want. I mean,
I'm good.
That's a good point. There were movies
true.
that like you
was
remember
amazing.
5.
Yeah,
You
I remember
7.
5. And I
You
remember
remember the
7.
first 3.
I remember the
'Cause
first
they
3.
were very distinctly their
Yeah.
own.
And I definitely...
And then the rest of them are kind of
Yeah. It's
like the
when
same
did that
movie,
happen?
but different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
trusting my emotion is what I had to do. So I was like, think about this 1. Okay. 10.
Yeah.
That's why. I feel gross when I think about this number of movie. Maybe I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So then I
get that.
I can't remember everything.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys for these rankings. It was fun. And that's the thing is these movies are just meant to be enjoyed. People get very passionate about why movies are good or bad or whatever. But at the end of the day, one of the comments that said the same thing. Like it's meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
You know? So it's cool if you like them. It's cool if you don't. Whatever. Anyway, speaking of things we like, we're now going to talk about Bailey's best bits.
Yeah.
So,
Bailey's best bits. So this one is Bailey's I Want Momoa of It.
okay.
Because this movie...
Did you know this ahead of time?
No, I never know. I never have any idea.
This movie was saved by Jason Momoa. So...
Am I playing this time?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
Okay, whose team am I? Am I on Bailey's team?
Here's the thing. You can be on your own team.
Okay.
The reality is the competition is technically over.
Okay, you annihilated Bailey, right?
I did. I didn't want to. I didn't want to bring too much.
Okay.
I didn't want to talk about the.
How badly you beat
Yeah.
her? I'll bring it up. I don't care.
But it was a bit of a sweep.
Okay.
But
So this is just for fun.
But this was just for fun. So
All right,
we're all on our.
We didn't have Drew's best bits though, so
That's next month's episode. Just for what? One.
Nice.
Just for one.
Aw.
I'll pick 3 scenes from the entire franchise.
Oh.
That Bailey won't remember.
Right.
Right.
One of them didn't actually happen, but no, I'm just kidding.
Dang.
Pick the one that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, so here we are. I put this in chronological order, I think.
Thank you.
I tried to, at least. I think I did. I don't remember. Okay, so you have the first scene, literally the opening scene. I think it's the opening scene, and it's Jason Momoa's like origin story, pretty much.
Okay, so it was like plugging him into Fast Five.
Plugging him into Fast Five, but also him falling into the water and his luscious hair coming out. Then you get the second scene where he's painting his confidant's nails while they're dead in the chairs, and he's talking to them.
That's fun.
And then you've got the third one where he licks her face, and then he like burps and then says family, and then immediately goes into a deep voice, and then immediately is like making fun of Vin Diesel with a deep voice for some reason.
Yeah.
And then it goes into like Swan Lake.
Yeah.
So
those
are my
good ones.
3.
I forgot about that last scene, but that was
Yeah,
a fun.
I was
fun
gonna
moment.
say the one where he did the remote control one too, but I'm only a 3 scene person, so
three is enough.
3's enough.
3 is a crowd. I don't know. 4 is a crowd.
So is this your favorite mimosa moment? Is that what we're
These
doing?
are my I want Momoa of it. So it's what scene I wish was actually longer.
Oh.
We know number 1 ain't it.
I don't think it's number 1 either. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I think you already have yours picked, right? I'm not going to sway your answer, am I?
I don't think you'll sway my answer.
I know what I think mine is.
Okay.
I think it's the second one.
Okay, so I
think it's painting the fingernails.
I thought that was my first pick, but then I heard about the third scene, and I think
you're leaning toward 3.
I think I'm leaning towards 3, but I'm open to being wrong if it's 2. If it's 1, I'm throwing this table and
flipping tables.
Flip
a table. If it's so that here's the deal. If it's 1, she wins. If it's 2, I win this round. This little fun little game. And then if it's 3,
then 3 is I win. So, yeah, so that's kind of fun.
She's gonna change her mind now just so she wins.
She's not. It's there's a harsh
that's not
rule
fair.
in Bailey's best bets.
Yeah,
where
I was about to say I'm too truthful of a person.
Yeah.
I can't just switch it up like
if
that.
she does that, then she's sentencing
Y'all would
herself
know
to like 100
if
more
I
Fast and
switched it
Furious
up,
movies. Yeah.
because then I'd stumble over myself.
There'd be signs.
And there would be signs of me being like, yeah.
So what was it? So I picked 3. Alan picked 2, and we're gonna.
It was number 2.
Good job, Alan.
Yeah, because I kept saying Criminal Minds-esque. Criminal Minds was like one of my favorite shows for a little bit in high school. So whenever it showed that whole scene where he was literally just sitting there like an unhinged little girly pal, but like a giant dude acting like a girly pal, like
tiny little
robe,
eyes.
painting his nails. It's like you're
Having
literally dressing up a bear in a dress,
Yes.
and then giving him a machine gun. And then
having a conversation.
with 2 dead people.
Have you gone from a bald-headed guy to the guy with luscious locks? Are you crushing on Statham or on Momoa now, or is Statham still your guy?
No, Statham's still the guy. Yeah, no, Momoa's too brute.
Okay.
That dude's like a giant. I don't know. Tree man, not Aquaman.
Aquaman, yeah, literally. Cool. Well, those are good. Those were good bits. I'm surprised we've gone a whole season and haven't changed the name to Bailey's Best Bits. We committed, just like the Fast series. We kept going with it, and I love that for us.
Except we're not objectifying.
No, not at all.
So.
No, but kind of like the Bare Naked Ladies. If you put that on a marquee, and
Yeah,
we're gonna start selling Bailey's Best Bits T-shirts. It'd be weirder if it was shorts.
Brought to you today by Drew and Alan.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I got no part in it.
No. So as we close out, a few things. One, we want to give a special thank you again to Rusty's TV and Movies Car Museum. Rusty himself is the coolest guy ever. He's got a whole museum of awesome cars. I mean, as I'm looking around, there's a Batmobile. There's the Ninja Turtle one. We have 2 Fast and Furious cars.
Ghostbusters. You can kind of see behind you.
Yeah. So it's great if you're ever in Jackson, Tennessee, and you like TV and movie cars.
The DeLorean.
This is the place. Yeah, there's DeLorean, Cypher's car from Fast 10. Yep. I just need you all to know I know it's from Back to the Future. So what a wonderful place, and he's so nice to let us do not 1 but 2 episodes here. Actually 3 episodes, because we're about to when we end this episode, film our recap episode, which you'll see in November. Most important thing I say this is not the most important thing. This is like mediumly important thing that I'm telling you right now. Check out our socials. Keep the conversation going. Reach out to us. DM us if you want to do an interview or whatever. The Quarter Mile Podcast on Facebook and Instagram and most everything. Quarter Mile Podcast on TikTok. You can see our viral 16-second reel that is incredibly random, but people comment on. And then, so we are gonna do 1 more episode for the season. This is technically the season finale, but we're gonna do a recap episode where me and Bailey are gonna, I don't know, tie a bow on this whole Fast and Furious thing in our lives.
I'm going to fight him.
It's going to be a battle. We're going to race, and then we're going to crash the cars and then fight. And it's going to be really cool. And the most common question I get is, because people know there's 10 Fast and Furious movies, and they're like, well, what are you going to do when you finish Fast and Furious? Like, I literally had someone text me, are you getting nervous? You're nearing the end of the series. Like, what are you going to do? And rest assured, we have an amazing plan for season 2. And we're going to tell you about that next month. All right, have a good one.